And when you mentioned how economics plays such a big role in your research, we know that classical economics assumes rational agents of maximizing utility, while neuroscience reveals biological constraints and noise. So how does your research help connect these two perspectives? And do you think modern economic theory underestimates the role of biological limits and rationality?
So to me, that's such an interesting and deep question. Let me say that I spent the first 20 years puzzling over this problem. Why is it that when I look as an economist, which I am, at human decision-making, there's so much intransitivity, so much inconsistency in human decision-making? When I look as a biologist, that's puzzling because as biologists, we think of the law of natural selection and Darwinian evolution as pushing animals towards efficient representations, towards accurate decision-making, towards more precision in their choices. And so reconciling the observation that many economists think of decision-makers, human decision-makers, as really bad at it. This is really the legacy of Danny Kahneman and Amos Tversky in the psychology of judgment decision-making. Reconciling that with the idea that biologists think animals are good at what they do. That's a real puzzle. The way we have come to think about that in the last 10 years is that we have begun to argue that classical economists kind of missed one really, really important point. And we think of this as the cost of accuracy. Biological systems face real costs. We have to eat more food if we want to have more brains. And one of the features of our decision-making apparatus is that it's really metabolically efficient. If you just characterize how many watts of energy your brain is using, Dimitri, right now, it's about 20 watts, somewhere between 10 and 20 watts. Now, if we think about a modern data center running ChatGPT, that data center is consuming maybe 2 to 5 megawatts. And that ChatGPT is doing a reasonable job of approximating a little bit of what we do. And I'm really struck by the fact that there is a 6 or 7 order of magnitude difference in the energy being consumed. And what I think characterizes us is an attention to that energy cost. Biological systems are driven because they're cost sensitive. And so far, ChatGPT hasn't been terribly cost sensitive. Now, if we begin to think that the problem is get as much energy, make as good a decision as you can, but do it with as little energy as you can, we can begin to think of the brain as performing what I would think of as just sort of household economizing. If I can increase the precision with which I represent value by an order of magnitude, by a factor of 10, by shifting my brain from weighing 5 pounds to weighing 55 pounds, and I can achieve that lower error rate at a cost of tripling my food intake every day. You really have to convince the biologist that that was worth it. If the way I like to think about it is, if we make mistakes, someone puts a bunch of candies on the table in front of us and we don't consistently choose the best candy. And I tell you, well, you could get the right candy every time if you had a brain that weighed 250 pounds and you ate 10 times as much food as you ate today. But you would have to eat 100 candies, not one, in order to support that brain. And so, I mean, I think it's just a cost-benefit analysis where improving precision, reducing errors just isn't worth it because the actual real-life costs of those errors are not so high. So for me, the missing piece in classical economics is costs. We always write out with infinite precision. I represent the values of the options. This is classical expected value theory and expected utility theory, And when we write out expected utility theory, we actually put in an error term, how accurately you do that, and you have to pay to reduce that error term. And then a lot of the behaviors, which are super puzzling, that have puzzled psychologists and economists for decades now, they actually turn out to be optimizing behaviors where you're accepting lower accuracy and mistakes in order to just reduce costs. It's just not worth it.